Welcome back, guys. It is thrift flip time. Let's go ahead and get started. In today's video, we're going to be flipping a couple items, starting with this large tin can. Now, you can get this at a local cafeteria, or if you happen to buy in bulk, that's the size I'm using, but you can also use the normal sizes. I have already removed the lid, the bottom, the labeling, cleaned it up, and smashed it. I'm not going to go through how I do that in this video, but I do have some videos I can reference you to because I've done this before in videos. So I will link those in the description if you are interested on the step-by-step process. I am wanting to decoupage on this piece, and I have this beautiful paper from Recycled Papers that I had picked up, and I'm so excited to get to use it. So I'm just going to lay it down on top, kind of see how big of a size I need, and cut it down to size with just a little bit of overlay. That way I can make sure that it is proper and then cut it down to be exact when I'm ready. I am using the dishwasher safe Mod Podge that comes in the bluish like teal label. I like to use this just because after 28 days it does cure and then it does make it waterproof. Here you see me laying it down. I wanted to make sure I could get in all of those ridges, so I started by just doing the Mod Podge on the top half, placing it where I need it to be, rubbing it down, and then go ahead and going in on the bottom half with the Mod Podge just to help me control where it's laying and where it's sticking. That way I can avoid as many wrinkles as possible. Once that's on there nice and well, I'm going to go back over the entire top with another coat of the Mod Podge. I'm not doing a super thick coat, but a healthy even coat over the entire thing. And I'm just going to go side to side, nice and even strokes all the way to the bottom. And then where I have this excess here, typically you would let it dry completely, but since I'm going to be covering this up and it doesn't matter if it's not like a perfect cut, I went ahead and just did this while it was wet. I just ran it right against that metal groove at the bottom of the can, which made for a nice clean and even cut. So I'm just going to pull that off of here, and then I'm going to work on the sides. So on the sides, I have it to where it slightly overlaps to the back. That way, if you're looking at it from the side, it all looks like it's wrapped, but I didn't want to waste all my paper by doing the back too when you wouldn't really see it. So I'll show you what I do to fix that in a little bit. I'm just going to take my brush up and underneath that lip where it starts to curve around the can, and then put a little bit of Mod Podge in there and fold it down and press it really nice and tight, and then Mod Podge right back over top like I did on the face of it. And that's just going to hold it in place, wrap those edges, and make sure that it's not going to go anywhere. I did hit this with my heat gun a little bit to help speed the drying process up, and then I let it finish air drying. I did not show that on camera. From there, I'm just going to paint the back of the can. I do want it to look finished, but again, I didn't want to waste my beautiful paper. So I'm just going to be using some sage chalk paint to paint up the back really nicely, keep those nice crisp edges where the paper meets the back of the can. And I'm just going to do one good solid coat. I didn't end up even going back for a second coat because it covered pretty well. And then chalk paint does need to be sealed, so I took that same Mod Podge and I sealed the back of it. I just wanted to make sure this again was waterproof, just in case somebody puts it, outside on their front door, or if they decide to put real flowers in it or anything. Yeah, so I went ahead with that, and then it was time to add some frills. I have these little lace pieces that I'm wanting to run across the bottom, kind of like a ribbon. So I put it on the bottom, and then I also put it across the top, and all I did was use my STARBOND glue set. I put the glue down, and then it does have a spray activator, and since the lace is it has all of the holes and things through it, I just sprayed right on top of it so that it would set the glue as I'm going through. So this worked really well. It was a nice quick process, and I just, like I said, did it on the top and the bottom. I love how elegant and beautiful that this is looking. And so then I just needed to add a hanger. I've used wire in the past. I've also used rope in the past, but I felt like this rope really went in with the theme. So I am using this, I think this is nautical rope from the Dollar Tree actually. And it's just like this cream color, cut it down to size, and then I'm gluing it into the side as a handle. Now, I usually would put like floral foam in here, or if the florals stay by themselves without the foam, then I just use those florals to decorate. I went ahead and decorated this one so that I could stage it for people, but you can put any florals you want in there. You can honestly put anything you want in there, but I'm very happy with how it turned out, and I would love to hear what you think in the comments below. And next, we're going to be taking two pieces that I have picked up, actually, I think over a year ago, so it's time, and I'm going to be combining them for a very cute project. So I'm going to take this sign and I'm going to paint it up white, just a nice solid white base to be able to work on top of. Now, this is an older sign, so when I did paint it, this is just white chalk paint, some of that raw old wood did start to yellow, and so I went out and did several coats, light coats of shellac. That way I could paint back on top and it would just seal in those stains and leave me with that crisper, nice white. So after I shellacked it, I painted it again, and then I wanted to just make that frame pop a little bit more because I am going to decoupage inside there. So this color, I think, is called Seaside Villa, and it's like a folk art chalk paint as well. And I just did a really light dry brush all over. I don't even know if you can see on the camera the color difference right now, but you will at the end. So I let that dry brush paint that I just put on dry, and then I'm going to use this beautiful paper, tissue paper that I had picked up from, I think, a local grocery store or one of the craft stores. I'm really not sure. And I'm going to decoupage this onto the back. So I'm using that same Mod Podge, and this is where it gets kind of tricky because this, I'm doing it down inside of a frame, so I'm just going to line it up the best I can. Again, I'm only doing sections at a time so I can control where that tissue paper is going to lay. It's going to try to fight me. It's going to try to wrinkle, so I'm just going to do the best I can to lay this down. And when I get it where I want to, I'm going to go ahead and start doing my Mod Podge on top as well. And I'm just going to continue to do that in sections all the way down the sign. As I started to work, I decided to go ahead and cut off that excess just to make it a little bit easier to manage. That way it's fighting me less. And then once I'm ready to move to the next section, I always just peel back the part of the tissue paper that is not stuck down, and then a little bit past that just so I can get that the Mod Podge up underneath to make sure everything has it on there. And then I repeated the process. So I just keep smoothing it down and working it all the way until we get to the end. And then I had to cut a separate piece. As you can tell, the tissue paper wasn't quite long enough to go to the end of the sign. So what I did was kind of find a part of the tissue paper that looked like it lined up good enough to where, like, if you're not searching for it, you won't notice that there's two separate pieces. I lined them up the best I could, and then I just Mod Podged them down in the same process that I have been doing all throughout this. So Mod Podge layer on the bottom, lay down the paper, Mod Podge on top. From there, I did go ahead and cut away any excess with my little box cutter or razor blade or X-Acto knife, whatever you have on hand. I cut away all of the excess, and then I'm going to use this little rope just to kind of clean up the edges. I thought this was dry whenever I started cutting it, but it was not, so I did have a few pieces that kind of ripped, and I just wanted to make sure it looked finished and complete and put together. So I just used this light little twine that kind of matched the colors in the picture, and I hot glued that around the seam. That way you can't see any paper where there might be an imperfection, and I think it looks really cute and kind of ties the whole thing together. From there, I'm just going to be using some of my STARBOND glue and using this really cute I Love You wire. I'm pretty sure it holds photos in those little like ringlets you see, and I'm going to be gluing this down to the sign to make this one piece. I think it turned out super, super cute. I do think I could have done a little bit better on like lining it up and centering it up, but I'm very happy with it. And again, would love to know in the comments below what you think about this project, or if you have any suggestions on how any of these processes I could have done better. I would have loved to hear from you. Also, if you're new here, consider subscribing to my channel. I would love to have you a part of our crafting journey. And if you are new, welcome. I'm very happy to hear from you. If you are returning, thank you as always. I love to be able to do these projects for you guys, and I love interacting. So please, like I said, let me know which one's your favorite in the comments below. This next project, I have this little like birdhouse type thing on a stand. I'm really not sure what it is. I thought it was really cute and that I could do something fun with it. And so I just wanted to change up the colors, modernize it a little bit, like tone it down a little bit. It seemed a little, I don't know, abrasive to me. I didn't love it. So I did like a really harsh dry brush on it with white and that like sage color of chalk paint that I just used in the past. And I still didn't love it. It just was blah and it needed something else. So what I'm going to do is take all of these popsicle sticks here with my miter shears, and I'm going to cut them down, and I'm going to be putting on like a shingled roof. I'm going to cut a bunch of them down. There's 40 in a package. I think I used 37 of them, cutting them down to maybe like an inch long. This is all an estimate. I didn't measure anything. I just cut them. So what I was doing is scoring them on one side, flipping it, scoring it on the other, because slicing through it was just too much hand power. I was doing that at first, but I just cut down a bunch, and then I'm going to hot glue them to the top here to make a shingled roof. Now I will say, as I went up, there were gaps that were creating in the ceiling, and I didn't love that look, and it was also hard to get them to glue down. So if I were to do it again, I'd probably leave some of the sticks whole, and make them longer and glue them so that those gaps don't get as big as you work towards the top, because as you can see, I'm layering and each layer is getting higher and higher. So as I get to the top, it's harder for me to glue them to the actual roof. So what I ended up doing is like, laying them down and then in the next row offsetting them so that the seams didn't overlap. And then I ended up kind of taking little pieces of little pieces of the popsicle sticks and kind of building up a back on some of these pieces. That way it would fill that gap. And then when I got to the top, when it was even deeper and a little harder, I just basically made a little wood stack, as you see here, glued them together and glued them down. That way when I went to glue that next row, it had something to stick to. I'm very pleased with how shabby this looks, and all I'm going to do here is take some watered down Waverly wax and paint it up. That way it gives it some age and it really pops against this color. I like it so much better now. However, I'm still not in love. So if you have any suggestions for me on what you could do, what I could do or what you would do, I would love to hear from you, because I feel like it's still missing something. Last but not least, we're going to take this small tobacco basket. I'm pretty sure this came from the Dollar General at some point. And then one of my failed projects here, and we're going to make a cute little, just like shelf sitter. I'm going to use some white chalk paint to give myself a fresh white base on that sign, and also use some of that watered down Waverly wax to go ahead and stain this tobacco basket. It looks great as is with that natural tone, but I also really wanted to make it match the tissue paper. Again, we're decoupaging. Sorry guys, if you watched my last my decoupage video, I told you get addicted to it, and I'm still in it. So what I'm going to do is use some of the sunflower tissue paper that I have, and I wanted that dark brown from those sunflowers to really pop from the tobacco basket. So I am just going to paint this up and give it a nice stain. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to the sign and put my tissue paper down. So again, same process and same Mod Podge. I'm going to brush that Mod Podge on in a nice even layer, and then I'm going to lay my tissue paper right on top. I had already kind of like laid my tissue paper out in a dry run to see where I wanted the flowers to hit. So I already kind of knew that. And again, I had cut it down to a manageable size, but now that it's down on the wood, I'm going to cut away all that excess to make it easier to use. So once I cut that away, again, we're going to do a layer on top to make sure that it is sealed down nice and well. And then from there, we're going to let it dry. Again, what I usually do is I hit it with my heat gun, not on high. Like if it's on high, I keep it far away just to get some air blasted to it to kind of jumpstart that drying process. But then from there, I let it air dry. That way the heat gun isn't making it goopy and weird. And so once it's completely dry, that's when we're going to clean up those edges. So I'm just going to take my sanding block here. I believe it's a 120 grit, and I'm going to rub it in a downward, slightly diagonal motion to have it take out all of that excess paper and leave me nice crisp lines. Once we're done cleaning up all those edges, I'm just going to hot glue this down to the basket, center it the best I can, and I am super happy with how this turned out. It's just meant to sit on a shelf and look pretty, or hang up on a wall, whatever. I am so happy with how most of these turned out. If you have any suggestions for me, let me know in the comments below. Let me know which one was your favorite item. And if you enjoyed this content, please give me a thumbs up. I would love that if you're new here, if you would give me a subscribe. If you're returning, thank you so much for all of your support. I'm going to take you in for a closer look, and I'll see you next time.